Why is financial statement fraud committed? Financial statement frauds may be committed for various reasons. Financial statement frauds may be committed to show higher revenue, to show good business performance, to present the company as highly profitable so that investors will show interest in the scripts. It may also happen that senior management, that is the CXO's compensation, is dependent on the top line achieved by the company, on the sales achieved by the company. So all these factors contribute to financial statement frauds. What is the cost of financial statement fraud? So there's something which is apparently visible, that is the company goes bust, thousands of people go unemployed, the top management goes to jail, the government coffers suffer a lot, and there are certain costs which are implied. That is, the confidence of the investor is shaken, the industry itself takes a blow. There is a lot of regulatory interventions introduced. Now, this is very crucial. Please understand, globally, governments don't want to participate a lot by issuing regulatory advisories and regulatory interventions. But when a fraud happens, then the government is forced to make intervention and the government is forced to introduce legislations. These legislations in turn make it difficult for business to work and perform. So this is a huge implied cost. When we discuss the financial statement fraud, it's crucial to understand the fraud triangle. The fraud triangle is a combination of pressure, opportunity, and rationalization. The pressure can be in a lot of forms. So pressure can be probably performance oriented pressure, that is the company is under severe stress to demonstrate good performance, or the pressure can be on the CXO, on the CEO, on the CFO to demonstrate good performance because their job may be jeopardized or their compensation may be dependent on the amount. The pressure can simply be psychological, where the CXOs wants to give a perception that they are successful because the company wants to show a consistent growth rate. So all these can be kind of pressure. If we talk about opportunity, opportunity is lack of internal control. Opportunity is a failure of company where the company has made it easy for the fraudsters to commit fraud. It may be, there may be ignorance, there may not be particular method, or there may not be reasonable method to measure the performance. Recognition of staff may be made subjective rather than objective, and then the staff will have a feeling, or the employee will be disgruntled, and the disgruntled employee will have a feeling that as the company is not treating me well, let me commit some sort of fraud. So this is the opportunity angle. And the last that we discussed is called as rationalization. Rationalization is a psychological concept because frauds involve human being, and a general human being is considered to be rational. This rationality prevents the human from committing a immoral or a fraudulent act. In order to commit this fraudulent act, the human or the person has to convince himself first so that his mind is capable of doing that wrong activity. Now, this fight which one has to do in his mind, he has to rationalize it to himself first before committing the offense. So, the person may have different ways of rationalization. He may rationalize it that the company is not paying me well, the company is wasting resources. Anyways, it's not going to affect the company because whatever I am stealing is a small amount. So these are certain ways how the person rationalizes. Now this concept of fraud triangle, that is the pressure, opportunity and rationalization, this is very important in case of fraud investigation and in case of fraud prevention. Why this is important? Because in case of fraud investigation, your entire hypothesis, your entire investigation will be dependent on these three aspects. So pressure, by looking at pressure, you can check as to why the particular person has committed the fraud. By opportunity, you can check as to what was the way available so that the person can do the fraud, and the rationalization will help to understand what was the thought process in his mind while committing the offense. Similarly, the fraud triangle will be helping for prevention of fraud based on these three factors. Financial fraud is by far the most damaging fraud in the fraud tree. While the number of instances of financial statement fraud is small, but then the damage that it does, the median loss as we call, that is highest in case of financial statement fraud. So the reports to the nation published by ACFE that says that financial statement fraud is only 9% of the reported cases, but the median loss is highest in case of financial statement fraud. In case of financial statement fraud, revenue manipulation by far contributes to the financial statement fraud in the highest level. So let me quote an old survey, though the survey is of the year 2010, which is probably 10-12 years ago, but then the survey says that almost 60% of the financial statement fraud are done by revenue manipulation. This revenue manipulation can either be increasing in the revenue or decreasing in the revenue. So either the revenue can be increased, the liability can be decreased, or revenue can be decreased and liability can be increased. The objective of the fraud scheme as to which option the fraud scheme should use depends on the objective or depends on the outcome of the scheme. So if the fraudster is interested in reducing the tax liability, in showing lesser profit, he will go for increase in liability and reduction in assets. Whereas if the fraudster is interested in showing more business, if he is interested in getting banking arrangement and more debt, he'll go for increase in revenue and reduction in liability.